But first, the French president has declared that his nation will destroy the Islamic State group as the hunt continues for anyone linked to the deadly Paris attacks. The last surviving attacker is still on the run despite dozens of police raids in France and Belgium. But the French government is proposing sweeping measures to tackle terrorism both within its borders and in Syria. As Anne Barker reports.
France is taking swift and unprecedented action to respond to Friday night's terrorist attacks. President François Hollande, addressing an extraordinary sitting of both houses of Parliament, declared France was at war.
The
acts of war on Friday were decided upon and planned in Syria. They were organised in Belgium and they were perpetrated on our soil with the complicity of French citizens. These attacks pursued a single precise objective: to sow fear in order to divide us and to put pressure on us not to act abroad in the Middle East to fight against terrorism.
In his address at the Palace of Versailles, François Hollande said he would table a bill tomorrow to extend the state of emergency in France for 3 months. He wants to change the constitution to give the government stronger powers to fight terrorism, with 5,000 more police and measures to make it easier to deport or strip dual nationals of their French citizenship if they're considered a terrorist threat.
It's also to protect ourselves, to prevent from coming to our territory, as was the case here on Friday, foreign fighters who want to carry out terrorist acts. But more must be done. Syria has become the biggest factory of terrorists that the world has ever known.
France will also intensify its military campaign against ISIS targets in Syria. Since the weekend, French fighter jets have already carried out dozens of air raids over Raqqa, the ISIS stronghold, and a French aircraft carrier will set sail this week to triple France's military capacity in the Middle East.
La France intensifiera ses opérations en Syrie.
France will intensify its operations in Syria. Yesterday evening, I gave the order to 10 French fighter bombers to release their bombs on the fiefdom of Raqqa. They destroyed a command centre and a training camp. I congratulate all the French pilots who made this mission a success.
The French airstrikes were carried out with the support of US forces. Barack Obama has announced the US will take steps to streamline the way it shares intelligence with France. But at the G20 summit in Turkey, he's ruled out a ground intervention in Syria.
We have the finest military in the world, and we have the finest military minds in the world. And I've been meeting with them intensively for years now, discussing these various options. And it is not just my view, but the view of my closest military and civilian advisors that would be a mistake.
Australia's Foreign Minister too, Julie Bishop, has also ruled out putting Australian boots on the ground in Syria or Iraq in the wake of the Paris attacks. She was responding to a newspaper article by former Prime Minister Tony Abbott, arguing Australia should expand its military role against Islamic State.
Former Prime Minister Tony Abbott appreciates that. You can't unilaterally go into Iraq in these circumstances. There's an elected government there. We've been invited in with their consent. We're working with the Iraqi government. This is not a situation like Iraq under Saddam Hussein. This is an elected government. We're working closely with them. Likewise in Syria, we're working as part of the US-led coalition.
Much of the investigation into Friday's attacks has moved to Belgium, where the 8th and only surviving attacker was reportedly living. Overnight, police there raided a residential property in a Brussels suburb. But despite some reports he'd been arrested, Salah Abdeslam is still on the run. Belgium's foreign minister is Didier Reynders.
We have now a very large scope of investigations in France, in Belgium and in other countries. And so we will wait the results of those investigations before to take any conclusions. There are maybe some people coming from France, coming from Belgium, coming from other countries involved in those terrorist attacks. But we will wait until the end of such a lot of investigations before to express something about that.
That's Belgium's Foreign Minister Didier Reynders ending that report by Anne Barker.